Good day, collectors and viewers. Social Distance Warrior is back, and today we're going to look at the Rebel Fleet Trooper. So the Rebel Fleet Trooper made his debut way back in 1977 in the original Star Wars movie that was later titled Episode 4, A New Hope. So right at the beginning of the movie, when the Rebel blockade runner was captured and pulled in with a tractor beam into the Imperial Star Destroyer, and they were boarded by Imperials, the first guys you see, the first line of defense for the Rebels, was the Rebel Fleet Trooper. And we wouldn't have an action figure, mysteriously, with the Rebel Fleet Trooper in the original Star Wars line. Just like Grand Moff Tarkin, these guys, although they were prominent in that original Star Wars movie, they never got an action figure. Star Wars would come and go, episode 4, 5, and 6. And after 1983, we had a few animated Star Wars TV shows, and then Star Wars went dormant, like we always talk about on these reviews, and then came back. And once Star Wars became prominent again in the 90s and made its renaissance, Hasbro/Kenner released the Power of the Force 2 line, and we finally got an action figure version of the Rebel Fleet Trooper from that opening crawl, the opening scene from A New Hope. And that's this guy over here. So that's in 1997. We get our first Rebel Fleet Trooper. So what stands out on this guy here? Well, he suffers the super buff superhero / action figure pose, which was popular in the 90s, and I guess at the time Hasbro / Kenner thought that this would be a viable way to distribute the Star Wars figures. Now, when you first got into this line, like myself in the 90s, based on nostalgia from the original one, you were more than ecstatic to get anything that's brand new Star Wars figure wise, and having this guy finally in action figure form was great. And it's funny because at the time, when you didn't know any better and the figures were muscular, you lived with it. You had to deal with what they were at the time. And this guy was a welcome addition. You can see he's got the head with the helmet on there, and the helmet is fixed on, does not removable on this figure here. Probably better that it wasn't, just because he's so bulky. He does have a separate vest that hangs over, gives it a nice, dimensional look there, some depth. Of course, he's got a blaster in hand. Now, he did come with a couple blasters. This is one of them that he's holding in hand, reminiscent of that opening scene. So articulation on the arms there, articulation on the head, articulation on the waist, which was popular on the Power of the Force 2 line at the time, and of course on the legs as well. So you can see the legs go up and down. He does have a belt sculpted on there. It's not separate piece, but it's a nice belt. It's got a holster there. It's not a working holster, but he does have a holster on his belt there as well. So you technically could have army built these guys, but they never jumped out at me in the sculpt that they were in. So as a result, I never picked up more than one, just because I was always hopeful maybe someday we get a different version of them. I mean, I didn't really know how long I'd be collecting. I just knew that I was back into Star Wars and loving it at the time. So underneath, we got his foot pegs, standard on the action figures, so you can pose them in play sets and on figure stands. And that's what he looks like from the front. Now, we didn't take a close-up of his head. Let's do that as well, just so we can see and can notice mine here has not the greatest paint job on his right eye. But nonetheless, the figure does the trick. You can immediately notice which character it is from the movie. And you'll notice that his pant legs are a different color than they should be. They should be more of a gray. But that's what we got at the time. So that's what he looks like from the front. Turn him over to the side. You see that awesome Mr. America chest that he's got there. And that's what he looks like from the back as well. So some sculpting on the vest as well. There's a cut here in the back. There's some creasing. So, well, the action figures, of course, coming a long way from where they were, but still will progress as we go, which is the great thing about these reviews. So that's what we got in 97, our very first appearance, very first rendition of the Rebel Fleet Trooper. And, we'd have to live with this guy for a few more years. And then we get a new one about 4 years later in 2001. So Star Wars would make its triumphant return with the special editions, and then we had the Episode 1 prequel movie come out, and then they decided to merge the line with Power of the Jedi. So with Power of the Jedi, they had a Universal toy line, and we got a brand new Rebel Fleet Trooper, or at the time written Rebel Trooper, which is the same character, and he's been upgraded. That's this guy over here. So you'll notice that he's definitely an update over the previous one. You can notice that Hasbro, of course, has gone with a more realistic look on the figures just 4 short years later. they've come a long way with these action figures, and they're starting to experiment with certain things like articulation. We'll look at that on this guy here too. So it was a delight to get this guy just because he's so different from that original one. He's not bulky. His paint color, his colors, pant colors, arm colors, everything is the right color from the movie. And he just stands out a lot more. He does have a vest sitting over as well. It's not removable. It's hard. It's pretty stuck on there, but a lot more accurate. He doesn't have a removable helmet either. Let's just bring him up close so we can see what his head looks like. He's got that chin strap sculpted onto his head. So that's not removable, but he does have articulation. You can turn him side to side, and it's a lot more accurate as well. It's got a nice black paint job there on top compared to the other one. That's what he looks like from the side, helmet-wise. Okay, and then on the back from the helmet as well. So that's articulation-wise on this figure. So head turns, you can move his arms up and down. Okay, you'll notice that the arms are in a fixed position. He does have a very accurate blaster in hand. So let's just take that one out just to see it up close, so you can see how far they've come with the accessories as well. They've painted the front barrel of the blaster here as well, but it's a lot smaller, it's a lot more to scale, and it's a lot more realistic than what we were used to before this with the bulky ones. So he does have articulation here at the wrist. You can turn his wrist, but again, the arms just go up and down and they're fixed in a pose. We'll look at that in a sec. As far as the legs, he does have a sculpted holster on the side of his pant leg there, and his legs do move up. He does have the pegs underneath as well here. And then we'll notice here is that there is a swivel here at his knee. So they were experimenting, rather than having a articulated knee where you can bend it, you swivel it back like that, and then you could turn his boot around as well to have him positioned. So I'm going to do that right now just to show you. We'll move that one that way, and then we'll move this one the opposite way to turn around with the knee, and then we'll bring that forward, and then he's in position when you put his other arm up to attack the rebels, to attack the Imperials coming into the rebel blockade, 10-4, right? So let's put that blaster back in his hand just so we can see what that looks like, and then his sculpting there, it should be holding the blaster like that, but over the years his arms have come apart a bit. But you can see sculpting wise, he's pre-posed to sit in that scene, and I have him sitting in my 10-4 because he does go with all the different Rebel fleet troops. He mixes in right in well with them, but that's what the positioning wise is with this guy here with his knees. He's definitely designed to have an action pose in the movie. So we can turn those back around just so we can show you, and then bring the pant leg back around, stand him up, and we can have him standing straight again. You can have him shooting standing up, you can have him kneeling down, you can have him laying down, whatever you want with this guy. He's fixed in that pose. So that's what he looks like from the front. Turn around to the side, we can see the accuracy. Night and day from the previous one we got. No large chest piece or biceps. He's definitely a great army builder, and he was an army builder. You could pick these guys up in bulk as well to build them. I only have a couple in my collection because at the time I wasn't sure what scenes I'd be doing with the movies, because we had a lot of prequels coming out too. But I loved having this guy in the collection. He was definitely totally reminiscent of the original Star Wars movie. So that's what we got in 2001. We'd go 1 year forward in the Star Wars Saga collection. We get that same figure re-released. He just come with a number of different hair colors in those releases. He'd have there was one with the black hair, one with red hair, one with brown hair. That was the only difference. Otherwise, exactly the same figure, exactly the same paint job on the figure, exact same articulation on the figure. And that's all we'd get. We wouldn't get an update on this guy until 9 years later. So in 2011, we finally get a vintage collection version of the Rebel Fleet Trooper. And he didn't disappoint. He's definitely an ultimate version of that character. I have him on card. I'm going to bring him over just to show you. So that's what he looks like on card. You can see he's on the Star Wars card back, Rebel Fleet Trooper. Kenner logo here, beautiful design. You can see the nice shot for the figures from the movie, standing in position. It looks very just like the Power of the Jedi version there, with the hands fixed forward. You can do it with this guy as well. He's got full articulation, and he comes with a ton of accessories, so you can customize them, which is awesome. The problem with these guys were they weren't very easy to find. they were actually very hard to find. So army building them was not easy. It was difficult. It's not like today where you can buy full cases of figures and just army build them this way. No, that's not the case. You had to buy a whole case of figures, and he was 1 per case, I think, at the time, and almost impossible to find. I did manage to scoop one. When I turn around to the back, you're going to see where I scooped them from. So he does come with a number of accessories there. He does, and I'll show you what he looks like outside of the package, but he does have a hat as well as his helmet, which is removable, of course. He does have his scanner here from the Yavin 4 appearance. He's got a blaster in hand, and he's got this ring that goes around his boot, so you can customize them and make them different from each other. And if we turn him around to the back, we'll notice he's VC number 52, and then there's the first appearance picture from 97, where he originated from. So they were doing that with a lot of the vintage collection figures at the time. I actually prefer these card backs because they'd have the first appearance, and then of course this would be the update, and then you can see the other figures that were available as well. Now I picked this one up on a family vacation in Disney World, so you can see price tag there in 2011, right from the Tatooine Traders when you came out of the Star Tours ride. So I came out of that ride and I was already ready to buy Star Wars stuff, and they had the whole wave of vintage collection, which I hadn't even seen, and I picked up that entire wave when I was there. So that was awesome. So that's him on card. Let's put him back up, and let's look at the loose version of this guy. So loose version wise, we'll look at that version that we have on card first. So here he is in all his glory, fully articulated. You can see the test of time, how much improvement they've had over the years with these figures and sculpting and pride and joy that they've put into it. And with all the feedback and comments from collectors, they've managed to get us a perfect rendition of that Rebel Fleet Trooper. So full articulation on this guy. We'll do a close-up of his head just so you can see that first. So he's got his helmet on there. We'll take the helmet off in a sec, but it's a removable helmet, okay? He's got full articulation on the head. The head's on a ball, okay? So again, that's new for a lot of the Star Wars figures at the time. Swivel at the shoulders, so we can lift his arm up there, pose him at the elbows as well, and of course at the wrist. You can turn his wrist as well when he's holding the blaster. This chest piece is sculpted on now. So it is sculpted on over where it sits over the waist, but it's not removable. It's sitting on there, sculpted just over his chest. And he's articulation there at the waist, so you can turn him side to side, okay? And then as far as the legs here, the legs move up. And he does have articulation at the knees, okay? And then he does have articulation at the ankle as well. You can turn him down, you can turn it sideways. You can position this guy any way you like. And you'll notice on mine there, on the legs, he does have that ring sitting around the boot to differentiate him from the other ones, and that is removable. That's a separate piece. And the way that works, let's just have a look at it closely. He does have some paint on there, so it looks like it's an ammo belt that sits over his boot. And it does have a little peg on the inside there, if you see that right there. That sits on his boot leg right there. If it's hard to see, but it's right there. Okay, so if you clip that onto his boot leg, then it's supposed to sit there and hold it in place, and you can have some with that on the boot leg, you can have some without it on the boot leg. Okay, so that's articulation on the leg. Underneath you can see he's got the foot pegs, okay? And then if we turn him here to the side, that's what he looks like from the side position wise. And then if we turn him to the back, you can see unmistakably the Rebel Fleet Trooper, okay? From the back as well. Now, the helmet does come off, so we're going to look at that as well as his accessories. So let's just take his blaster out so we can take a close-up. We can see the blaster is a little larger than the one with the Power of the Jedi line, a little more accurate. That one was a little bit small and flimsy. It does have the barrel painted as well. It does have the scope on top there, and you can see it's unique. Unlike the Power of the Force 2 stuff, which is all came with Han Solo's DL-44 blaster, this guy has his own unique blaster straight out of the movie. And then we're going to remove his helmet here. Comes off easily. We can look at the helmet in detail. So it's sculpted fully there. It's got the little strap that sits up over under his chin so it doesn't fall off. It has the antenna on there. Everything's painted. The antenna's painted silver. Nice black shiny paint job on top there on the front of it, on the visor part, and then the chin strap there. So that's helmet. So here I have the version without the helmet on, the one that they've chosen from that close-up in A New Hope. You can see he's fully painted, nice paint job on his head. His head is on a ball. It's got a very nice sculpt with or without the helmet on. Let's just take a close-up just so you can see him there as well. That's what he looks like from the side. Okay, other side, and then back. So that's the head sculpt that we got. Now we also do have him with the baseball cap on, so let's look at that version as well. And he's got a different accessory in his hand, so you could, again, customize this guy to be the one that was standing in the tower on Yavin 4 with the scanner as the ship X-Wings flew away. And that's the version you can get there too. So you can definitely army build this guy if you can find them at the time, and do a lot with these figures, and they're just awesome, glorious. And there's the baseball cap, and it does come off. Let's just look at that as well just to show you. That's the baseball cap, fully sculpted. It's also in gray, and it easily fits on the head there. Let's put that back on. And then he's got his scanner in his hand there as well, so you can see that close up. So lots of accessories with this guy, and he was the ultimate version and still is the ultimate version of that Rebel Fleet Trooper that we got in 2011. Now we would get the Rebel Fleet Trooper re-released in 2021. So 10 years later, as the vintage collection came back in 2018, and then we had a bunch of new Star Wars media come out, and Rogue One was one of those movies. And again, in Rogue One, if I'm not going to spoil it now, if you haven't seen it, stop watching. But I'd imagine you have by now. So at the end of that movie, that ends with the Death Star plans getting onto the Tantive 4. And we get to see that whole scene with Darth Vader trying to retrieve them. And we see the Rebel Fleet Trooper. And that was Hasbro's opportunity to reintroduce him and get him back into the line. And he came out in a Tantive 4 playset in January 2021. And you could build these things, buy more than one of them to make the whole hallway or make a whole corridor, and you could use them from the front and back. It was actually very creative. We'll put a photo up just to show you. But that playset did get a pack in Rebel Fleet Trooper as well, and here he is on card. He's exactly the same sculpt that we have here, but nonetheless on a new card back from Rogue One. Some people weren't happy about it because they didn't get the original one, but you know, it's happy to get this guy re-released. It's just too bad that you get an army builder in a pack like that. I guess if you're going to buy more than one corridor, you're okay, but you can only get them one at a time. So you can see that movie clip from the end of Rogue One, where they have the Rebel Fleet Troopers guarding and trying to stop Darth Vader from getting the plans. And you can see him, he's repacked there, and he's basically positioned exactly the same as the previous one was, with all the accessories in the same location. It's got the nice Rogue One logo there, and the Kenner logo there at the bottom. We turn it around. We'll notice he's gotten a new VC number as well because he's from Rogue One, VC 183, and there's some of the other figures that were released at the time as well on the back. But that's him on card, and as far as open, he's exactly the same as the one we just reviewed, so we're not going to revisit him just now. I do want to mention a couple more Rebel Fleet Troopers. 2007, we did get a 30th anniversary Rebel Fleet Trooper concept, Ralph McQuarrie. I'd like to show him over here. That's him on card. So they did a whole concept line with the 30th anniversary. These figures are very neat. And that was a concept makeup of what the Rebel Trooper would look like with the, you know, very futuristic space outfit. And he's fully articulated, comes with a coin. He's got a working holster on there, but that's what you got at the time with these figures. And I just wanted to throw them in there because when else would I get to review the concept figures, right? And there he is on the back. There's a nice picture of Ralph McQuarrie, the designer, and bio there on the Rebel Trooper, and then some other figures that were in the line. These are always fun to look at because you can see what other figures were released, and sometimes you look on the back and say, wow, I didn't even know they made a version of a destroyer droid with a shield. So that's neat to see. And there's a number of these concept figures, and the Rebel Trooper was one of them. I just wanted to throw them in there. Yeah, we'd also get a 30th anniversary comic pack with the Rebel Trooper, and this time Rebel Fleet Trooper, and this time it was a comic based with Darth Vader, and I have that one here as well just to show you. So this one came with a, you know, cartoon paint job version of Darth Vader. It's a Comtac version sculpt, and then of course the Power of the Jedi sculpt of the Rebel Trooper, and you can see he's completely different paint job in there, but it's nice. It's nice to see him in a completely different design when you can show it, and he comes with Star Wars #1 inside there, and it's got a green probe droid, but a lot of the comics at the time didn't have the exact paint jobs as the regular figures, so it was nice to differentiate the two when you're looking at the comic. I actually enjoyed that with the comics, how they were a little bit different, and I'd use my imagination with the figures. So that's what that looks like from the front. And then there he is on the back. There's a nice photo of Darth Vader and him. The Darth Vader's got a really nice paint job with the blue accents on there as well. And then some other packs that you could get there on the bottom as well. So that was comic pack as well, 30th anniversary. And then we'd get the Rebel Fleet Trooper released one more time, this time 2022. Also part of the vintage collection. This time it's a 4-pack, so an Army Builder 4-pack that was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. So you'd pre-order that, which was, I think, was November in 2021. And then in the springtime 2022, you received yours. I did. I'm sure some of you guys have as well. And it came with 3 versions of the Rebel Fleet Trooper, as well as Captain Antilles' brand new figure in there as well. So it was definitely a welcome addition. You could Army build your Tantive 4 playset. And that's these 3 figures up here. I'm just going to bring them forward just to show you that they all have unique head sculpts. So they made 3 completely different heads for these characters. There's one there. You can see same sculpt on the body, but a nice brand new head sculpt. And it's awesome. You have these guys in the background on your scenes, and you know, it definitely makes the scene a lot more interesting when you're able to have different characters in there, not just one design. So that was one. Let's just get that helmet back on there. Okay, and then we'll look at the other 2. So this is a little more realistic version of the one that was originally released. Just going to pull his helmet off there just to show you. So here he's got a completely different hair piece on his head than the previous one. And it's, again, a nice welcome addition. Look at the realism. Remember, these are 3 3/4 inch figures. Look at the ears on this guy as well. And then, of course, from the back. And then if I had the original one to show you side by side, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about, that you have 2 different characters there. Okay, so let's just put him back up there and let's look at the last one too. And then the last guy is over here as well. And again, we can take his helmet off just to see what he looks like. And we can see a close-up. Again, completely different head sculpts on these guys, so that you can have an awesome diorama of these characters. And that's what he looks like again from the back. So you can see complete different head designs in this pack, and definitely makes it worth buying as a result, because it's like having 3 new characters in there. Now, I want to show you Captain Antilles as well, because he was part of that 4-pack. That's him over here. And we can take that helmet off as well. So he has that standard helmet like everybody else does. And then you can see he's got his own head sculpt there as well. So he was included. Again, he's a brand new figure. If we're lucky, one day we'll get him on card, so we can make him part of the vintage collection. So that is the set that we got for the Rebel Fleet Troopers. And it wouldn't be right if we didn't mention a Black Series version. In this case, we do have one. And he's an awesome figure. He actually came before that re-release of the character, and he's an amazing sculpt. So let's bring him forward. He's over here. And you can see fully detailed on this guy here. It's just an amazing version. He does have the removable helmet as well. We'll look at that in a sec. So again, head on a ball. You can move it back and forth. His vest goes under his collar, which is neat. So it gives it extra depth there as well. And it is removable if you wanted to take it off. Arms are swivel there at the shoulder. They are at the elbow as well, okay, and then they are at the wrist as well. And of course, he has wrist articulation there too, so you can turn his arm down or up. At the chest here, you can move him back and forth, up and down. He has a little bit of positioning that you can work there. And then he has a ball here at the thighs, and then a cut here as well. He does have a working holster that's attached to the belt, so above the leg there. It is not going to stop you from sitting him down if you had to, or kneeling down. And then he has articulation, of course, here at the knee. You can bend him at the knee. You can turn his ankle, and you can move that up and down as well. So he does have working articulation all over this guy, okay? So it's perfect sculpt. He did also come with the Death Star plans, because it was the Rogue One version that they released, and that's what he looks like. Let's have a look at him one more time from the front. Underneath, I'll show you, he does have his foot pegs there too, and then that's what he looks like from the side. Okay, and then that's what he looks like from the back. And again, full detail you can see on the back here as well with these guys, because it's in 6-inch form. And then let's just take his helmet off to show you what it looks like without the helmet on. So you can see the sculpt there. You can see it's a nice sculpted version of the Rebel Fleet Trooper, and that's what we got as part of the Black Series. So that makes up the entire review for our Rebel Fleet Trooper. I hope you've enjoyed the review. Again, I really enjoy doing them. I want to keep doing more. And, you know, give me some comments there at the bottom. What characters would you like me to see review? I'm going to try to go through them as I come up with ideas of which ones I want to do next. But definitely this guy was worth doing just because we had so many versions of him. And it's just fun to go through them. So please like and subscribe. And see you again.